June 30th, 1903, the 17-year-old Kaiser Franz Josef I visits Braunau am Inn to celebrate his 700th birthday. In a historical coincidence, this border town to Bavaria, of all places, is the origin of the oldest film footage shot by an Austrian cinematographer.
In the late 80s of the last century, my parents lived in a small town on the Inn, which is Bavarian by blood and Austrian by nationality. Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf.
The worst disaster to strike the town of Braunau occurred on March the 28th, 1874. A violent storm fanned a terrible fire that destroyed 120 buildings. This stroke of fate was a pivotal moment in the history of Braunau. Konrad Meindl, History of Braunau am Inn, 1882. "15 years later, Adolf, the youngest son of the customs inspector Alois Hitler, who worked in Braunau and Simbach, was born. Eduard Kriechbaum, History of Braunau am Inn, 1938.
A terrible disaster for hundreds of millions of people worldwide.
This isn't just any chat, it's ClickUp chat. Sure, you can tag your team, ask questions, and even drop an emoji.
The customs inspector and his family occupy a small apartment on the top floor of the Pommer Hotel in Braunau. At Easter time on April the 20th, 1889, at about 6:30 in the evening, Adolf Hitler is born.
Parish Register, Braunau. Adolphus Hitler, born on April the 20th, 1889, at 6:30 in the evening. Baptized on April the 22nd at 3:15 by Ignaz Probst.
To begin with, there is this picture of little Adolf from the year 1889, a few months after his birth. One thing worthy of note in this first picture of Hitler is the close resemblance of Adolf to his mother. August Kubitschek, childhood friend of Adolf Hitler.
Adolf Hitler is the third of the couple's 6 children. He and his younger sister Paula are the only ones to survive beyond childhood. The mother is 28 years old at the time of the birth. The father is 51. Clara Hitler is related to Alois Hitler. She's her husband's second cousin.
Until she became his wife, Alois Hitler called her his cousin without further ado. Even though Clara Pölzl was only a second cousin, the bride and groom needed a church dispensation to marry. August Kubitschek.
The history of film as a medium also begins in Hitler's childhood. When Hitler is 3 years old, his father is transferred to a new post and decides to move into an apartment in Passau on the German side of the border. Adolf Hitler lives with his family in Bavaria for 3 years, until 1895.
Actually, Hitler didn't speak a typical Austrian dialect. August Kubitschek.
In my youth, my German was the dialect spoken in Lower Bavaria. Adolf Hitler, Mein Kampf.
The oldest film recording made in Austria-Hungary was shot by foreigners, the Lumiere brothers. It shows Vienna, the capital of a multinational empire, in the year 1896.
In old Austria, you could travel without a passport, from the Mediterranean, over the Alps, way into the east, the west, and the north. Oskar Kokoschka, painter and writer.
Hitler's ancestry from Lower Austria, as well as a total of 21 years spent in Upper Austria and Vienna, do not suffice to make him Austrian in the sense of a citizen of that nation.
Kurt Schuschnigg, Austrian Chancellor from 1934 to 1938. Austrians who spoke about the nation before 1938 meant the national culture that extended beyond their borders, which is what Austrian man also identified with.
This cultural nation is Germany. Transporting a locomotive through the streets of Chemnitz, 16 workhorses pull the locomotive as the factory has no rail connection. The majority of German-speaking Austrians feel close links to the Germans in Prussia, Saxony, Bavaria, and the smaller federal states already united in a partly industrialized Reich.
He was a grumpy, reticent old man, and, like a lot of political free spirits at the time, a stern German nationalist. Joseph Meyerhofer, farmer in the village of Leonding by Linz.
A visit to his parents' grave. His school friends say his mother was loving and kind-hearted. The father cold, silent, and strict. Joseph Goebbels, Diary, July 22nd, 1938.
In June 1939, Eva Braun films the small farm in the village of Haarfeld in Upper Austria that Hitler's father leases after retiring early in 1895. On May 1st, 1895, Hitler starts school in a one-room schoolhouse in the neighboring village of Fischelham. After school, he plays popular games of the period.
Playing only war games for us boys became boring, but he always found someone to play with. Balduin van Bellering, schoolmate of Hitler.
In the year 1897, Hitler's father sells the farm in Haarfeld. The family lives temporarily in the small town of Lambach.
Adolf Hitler's parents bought house number 61 with adjacent plots of land in Leonding on November 14th, 1898. Their son Adolf had just turned 10 years old. Max Sixter, Leonding, the Führer's hometown, Linz, 1938.
I never loved my father, but feared him all the more. Adolf Hitler, Table Talk, recorded by his secretary, Christa Schroeder.
My brother Adolf provoked my father to such extremes that he was beaten every day. Paula Hitler, later Paula Wolf.
Pictures from Hitler's school years are always shots of the whole class. You can still remember what it was like. August Kubitschek.
Adolf Hitler lives in Leonding near Linz for about 8 years. He attends the 4th and 5th grades here.
In his stories, his youth played a big part. He was a poor student. Albert Speer, the Kranzberg Protocol.
After 5 years at elementary school, in 1900, Adolf Hitler, aged 11, begins secondary school in the city of Linz. Adolf Hitler has to repeat his first year at secondary school due to poor grades.
I remember the scrawny, pale boy who commuted every day between Linz and Leonding fairly well. He was definitely talented on the one hand, but was not in control of himself. He was considered rebellious, and he didn't work hard. Dr. Edward Humer, Hitler's French teacher.
At the secondary school in Linz, there is a strident, widespread pan-German nationalism among the teachers. They want to join the united, strong German Reich of Bismarck, who is greatly admired.
Adolf was a great fan of Bismarck. Classmate of Hitler's.
The quiet life enjoyed by the Hitler family on its little patch of land only lasted a few years. The head of the family died unexpectedly of a heart attack in January 1903. Max Zixtel, Leo